Sinister stories.
Xavier was obsessed with horror movies. He collected every movie and memorabilia he could find. His shelves were lined with action figures, movie posters, and rare collector's editions. His love for the macabre ran deep, and he relished in the thrills and chills that horror brought. But little did he know that his passion would lead him down a path he never anticipated. One fateful day, he stumbled upon a mysterious online forum dedicated to horror enthusiasts. It claimed to have a hidden section where members could access exclusive content, footage from infamous unreleased films, behind-the-scenes documentaries, and even rumored cursed artifacts. Unable to resist the allure, he joined the forum and eagerly searched for access to the hidden section. After numerous dead ends, he stumbled upon a cryptic message from a user named Cinephile666. The message mentioned an elusive film that was said to possess a dark and mysterious power, a film so terrifying that it had been buried and forgotten. Intrigued, he reached out to Cinephile666, begging for more information. To his surprise, the user responded promptly, offering him a chance to watch the forbidden film. There was only one condition. He had to promise to share his experience and pass on the film to someone else, perpetuating its legacy. Unable to resist the temptation, he agreed, and Cinephile666 sent him a package containing an old, tattered film reel. With trembling hands, he set up his projector and prepared for the ultimate horror experience. As the film flickered to life, he found himself transported to a world of nightmarish imagery. The screen oozed with grotesque creatures and scenes of unimaginable terror. Fear clutched his heart, but he couldn't tear his eyes away. The minutes turned into hours, and the film seemed to warp his perception of reality. Shadows danced across the walls of his dimly lit room, mirroring the horrors on the screen. The air grew heavy with a malevolent presence, as if something sinister had been unleashed. And then it happened. The barrier between fiction and reality shattered. The creatures from the film crawled out of the screen, their twisted forms merging with the room around him. He was trapped in a nightmarish dimension, surrounded by his beloved horrors turned to life. Panic consumed him as he fought desperately to escape, but the walls closed in, suffocating him. The grotesque creatures whispered in his ears, their voices a cacophony of madness. They taunted him, their claws inching closer, eager to claim his soul. With one last surge of adrenaline, he managed to tear himself away from the clutches of the abominations. He sprinted through the house, knocking over his precious horror memorabilia in his frantic escape. But as he reached the front door, he was struck by an invisible force, sending him crashing to the floor. The creatures closed in, their malevolent laughter echoing through the empty house. Their monstrous forms twisted and contorted, their jaws widening to consume him. With no way out, he braced himself for his grisly fate. And then, in a flash of blinding light, it was over. The house fell silent. The creatures vanished, leaving behind only a shattered room and a broken man. He had survived, but he would forever bear the scars, both physical and psychological, of his ill-fated obsession. From that day forward, he renounced his love for horror, burying his collection and seeking solace in the light. He had learned a harsh lesson about the dangers of delving too deeply into the realm of darkness. The forbidden film had taken its toll, leaving him forever haunted by the horrors that had once thrilled him. With one last thought, he wondered how could he pass this along to another. But what if he doesn't? Flight of Shadows. It was a dark and gloomy night as Juan boarded the red-eye flight home after months of being on the road. As a musician for a semi-known rock band, he was accustomed to traveling for the majority of the year, but this time the separation from his family had been the longest. The weight of his absence always lingered in his heart, but it was a sacrifice he made for his career. The flight was like any other, filled with the usual sounds and movements of passengers. People shuffled through the aisles, mothers tried to calm their crying babies, and the familiar sound of tray tables going up and down echoed throughout the cabin. However, despite his frequent travels, Juan always felt a sense of unease when flying. This particular flight, though, felt different. The rain lashed against the windows, and turbulence rattled the plane. Juan tried to ease his nerves by reminiscing about his family and replaying happy memories in his mind. But the constant turbulence and flickering lights made it difficult to relax. Gripping the seat rest tightly, his knuckles turned white with tension. In a desperate attempt to find solace, Juan closed his eyes and counted to 10, seeking inner calm. But the turbulence persisted. He tried again and again, but his efforts were in vain, until, on the 5th attempt, the turbulence abruptly ceased, and the lights regained their steady glow. Juan let out a sigh of relief, only to realize that the passengers who were seated beside him were nowhere to be found. Confusion washed over him as he scanned the empty seats. He was certain they had been there moments ago. Perhaps he had dozed off, and they had slipped away to use the restroom or stretch their legs. But as time passed, and still, his neighbors failed to return, a sinking feeling settled in his gut. Finally, unable to bear the uncertainty any longer, Juan rose from his seat and ventured into the aisles. An eerie silence enveloped the plane, amplifying the unease that gnawed at his mind. Row after row, he found no passengers, no signs of life. The seats stood empty, devoid of the warmth and presence of fellow travelers. Even the overhead compartments yielded no luggage, and the netted holders at the back of each seat were devoid of even a trace of garbage. A growing sense of trepidation accompanied Juan's footsteps as he continued his search. The question nagged at him. Who was flying the plane? His breathing grew heavier with each passing row, anxiety tightening its grip on him. Determined to find answers, he made his way to the cockpit, his knuckles tapping nervously on the door. The door swung open slowly, revealing an empty cockpit bathed in an eerie glow. The pilot's seat was vacant, as was the co-pilot's. No sound emanated from the instrument panel. It was as if the heart of the plane had stopped beating. Fear cascaded over Juan, an icy chill crawling up his spine. He cautiously stepped into the cockpit, his eyes darting around in search of any clue that might explain the bizarre situation. Panic welled within him, threatening to overpower his senses. In a last-ditch effort to maintain composure, he called out, his voice trembling with uncertainty. "Hello? Is anyone here?" Silence greeted his plea, the only response the echo of his own voice. It was as if the plane existed in a world separate from reality, a dimension where time and space warped and twisted. The weight of solitude bore down on Juan, intensifying the eerie atmosphere that clung to every inch of the aircraft. With a trembling hand, he reached for the radio transmitter, hoping to establish contact with someone, anyone. But as he pressed the button, static filled the cabin, and an unsettling voice emerged from the speakers, laced with an otherworldly tone. "Welcome to the flight of shadows, Juan," the voice whispered, chilling him to the core. "You are not alone. We have been waiting for you." Dread gripped Juan's heart as he staggered backward, his mind reeling with a mixture of fear and disbelief. Who was behind this sinister charade, and why had he been chosen as a participant in this terrifying game? As the voice continued to echo through the empty plane, a realization struck Juan like a bolt of lightning. This was no ordinary flight. It was a macabre journey into the unknown, where the boundaries of reality blurred and nightmares took form. Determined to find answers and escape the clutches of the unknown, Juan summoned his courage and embarked on a perilous exploration of the plane. Every step reverberated with trepidation, the air thick with an unnameable presence. The cabin walls seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, casting grotesque shadows that danced with eerie grace. Whispers permeated the air, their source eluding Juan's senses. His heart raced, pounding against his chest as he ventured deeper into the labyrinthine corridors of the plane. A sense of foreboding heightened with each passing moment, and Juan knew he was being watched by unseen eyes. The once familiar space had transformed into a haunting maze, its dimensions distorted, its layout an enigma. Hallways stretched unnaturally, leading him into strange and unfamiliar sections of the plane. Doors stood ajar, revealing glimpses of darkened rooms where twisted forms lurked. The boundary between reality and nightmare became blurred, and Juan questioned his sanity as he traversed the surreal landscape. Whispers grew louder, their sinister words weaving tales of lost souls and unspeakable horrors. Shadows danced with malicious intent, their movements an intricate ballet of fear. Each corner turned revealed a new nightmare, testing Juan's resolve to the core. But amidst the terror, a glimmer of hope emerged. Juan discovered a small group of passengers, trapped like him, wandering the endless corridors. Together, they formed a fragile alliance, united by their shared desire to escape the clutches of the plane's malevolent grip. As they ventured deeper, they uncovered fragments of the plane's dark history, a haunting tale of an ill-fated flight that had vanished from radar, leaving no trace behind. The souls of those lost were trapped within the spectral confines of the plane, forever caught between the realms of the living and the dead. With their newfound knowledge, Juan and the group resolved to confront the entity that held them captive. They journeyed to the heart of the plane where a powerful source of darkness awaited. The final confrontation loomed, an epic battle between light and shadow, hope and despair. Armed with the resilience born from desperation, Juan and his companions faced the entity head-on. Their collective strength and determination served as a beacon of resistance against the encroaching darkness. In a climactic struggle, they fought to break free from the plane's nightmarish grasp, to release the trapped souls and find their way back to the world they once knew. As the battle reached its crescendo, the plane trembled, its spectral form dissolving before their eyes. Light pierced through the darkness, banishing the malevolent entity to the depths from which it emerged. The trapped souls found peace at last, their tormented journey finally coming to an end. Exhausted but victorious, Juan and his companions emerged from the plane, stepping onto solid ground once more. They had defied the nightmarish odds, their courage triumphing over despair. The world welcomed them back with open arms, their tale forever etched in their minds as a testament to the power of hope in the face of unimaginable terror. But as Juan rejoined his family, he knew that the flight of shadows would forever haunt his dreams, a reminder of the thin veil that separates reality from the horrors that lie just beyond. And whenever he looked up at the night sky, he couldn't help but wonder what other nightmares lurked among the stars, waiting for their chance to descend upon unsuspecting souls.